Minneapolis, St. Paul, The Fan.
Welcome back, Friday Football Feast. Paul Charching with you. PA's off today. Nordo's here as well. Dave Sinykin, is he coming in or is he on phone? He's probably en route right now. Hi, Dave. Drive safely.
Hi, Dave.
Before we break down some of the playoff games, let me mention this. Since the Patriots hired Bill Belichick, would you care to guess how many coaching stints have come and gone across the league?
The entire league?
Yep.
Ooh. So
he was there for one stint. Over the course of Bill Belichick's time with the Patriots, how many coaches have come and gone?
So I did see something like the Browns have had 11 or 12. The Raiders have had 11 or 12. So I did see a number like that for the 5 or 6 teams, just double-digit coaches, which is ridiculous. So let's say they account for 60 or 70 coaches. Then you got 30 other teams, 25 other teams. I'm just going to say 200 coaches.
Good guess. 224 coaches have come and gone since Belichick started. 224.
That's insane.
Think about that. It's crazy. Now, some of them were the same guy twice.
Yeah.
Right? Whatever. Frank Reich, 2 different stints.
Yeah, multiple spots. Yeah.
224 coaching jobs in the time Bill Belichick had one.
Well, how many guys have gotten? So Josh McDaniels, a couple of spots.
Oh, yeah. There's got to, there were 162 different head coaches
Doug
that were
Peterson.
employed.
So 162, 224 jobs.
224 jobs. I mean, we talk a lot. There's only 32 head coaching jobs. We've spun as a league 162 guys since 2000.
Yeah.
162. Maybe it's not quite as exclusive a club.
Well, and that's where, so how many of the Vikings had? They had Denny, Tice, Childress.
Are we back to Denny?
Frazier, Zimmer.
We are, yeah.
And then, and now KOC.
Yeah.
So the Vikings alone have had 6.
And the Vikings don't churn. We don't churn coaches.
No. They get a fair shot.
They do.
I mean,
maybe too long.
In some ways, the fact that Frazier got the stint that he did, just given the weird situation with Childress, and it just, I love Leslie Frazier. It just didn't feel right at the time. But no, that's amazing too. And because I was going to bring it up when Greenway was in here, the tenure is, just undisputed as one of the greatest coaches in all of professional sports of any sort. But that kind of, you mentioned Tomlin, and he was talking about Tomlin's teams giving guys a fight. I mean, he's getting up there in years. John Harbaugh, I think 08. It may have been 07 and 08 in respective years for Tomlin and Harbaugh. It's so rare in this league. And, Nick Sirianni, I saw a Philly Inquirer article about him potentially being...
if they lose, he's out.
Correct.
I think if he loses, there's a better than 50% chance that Nick Sirianni gets fired from the Eagles, having lost 6 of the last 7. That team was in a command position to be the number 1 seed at Thanksgiving, and they utterly went belly up. And some of it was against very good competition. They had a run of 5 games that were just brutal.
No, they were awful. And but
then you lose the Cardinals, stuff like that.
But I don't know how. But stuff like so to that end. And we can get more into the Philly side of things. The coordinator situation, Sean Desai, they demote him. Matt Patricia, speaking of Belichick, former faithful in New England, Matt Patricia, the defense actually gets worse when Matt Patricia starts calling the plays.
Yep.
So all sorts of problems abound there. He's won 2/3 of his games there. But the amazing part of, like here in Minnesota, there are people that want KOC out now.
Most of them are on my Twitter timeline, apparently.
Yeah, same here, and same in the 64686 Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line.
Yeah, and also the greater Cincinnati area.
He can't run. He can't run the ball. His decision making in certain spots. 2 seasons, he's out. And I'm just curious, in both cases, whether it's Harbaugh, 2012, so not necessarily new 4th or 5th year coaching, he gets a title. Tomlin. Goes to the Super Bowl twice, but he wins, I think, in his 2nd year as head coach of the of the Steelers. He gets that 2008 Super Bowl. They had the benefit of winning early. Similar with Belichick. Belichick got things started early in his tenure with the Patriots. And he's special because he continued that greatness, certainly. But, how much of it is if some of these coaches got a longer run? Like if Frank Reich hadn't been fired 11 games in, is there any chance that
they'd have gotten better? The
Panthers going in and, they still fire the GM and the owner's eating this Bryce Young decision.
In totality, NFL owners keep coaches too long.
So you think it's on average they probably stay too long?
If you need any example,
well, you shouldn't be shocked by this number. Then you should be disappointed it's not higher.
It's pretty high. 224 coaching stints since Bill Belichick was hired.
But if NFL teams keep guys too long, then it needs to be higher.
They do. Look, all you have to do is look at the differential between Brian Flores and Ed Donatel.
Wow,
that tells you how important coaching is. With roughly the same level of talent, we had a bottom 3 defense versus I'd
actually say lesser
NFL
talent,
average.
to be honest with you.
Yeah, maybe lesser talent.
I'd say lesser talent with Flores than a year ago.
It could very well be. Look, if you don't, it's so important to have the right coach. It's so important to have the right coaching. And teams hold on too long.
So when do you know to pull the trigger? I mean, for some of these teams, again, Frank Reich, that's an extreme example because he's on the opposite end of the Belichick spectrum. The short stint that he got. And he had good times, bad times. The quarterback situation in Indianapolis when he was coaching there was problematic. So, he'll be sitting at a bar or a coffee table somewhere talking about he got a bad hand of cards dealt, but it's great beating the league, et cetera, et cetera. And I think, tons of people respect Frank Reich. But how do you know when the right time to pull the trigger is? Like with Zimmer, for instance, you go to the playoffs in 2019, then you have 2 consecutive years after that mass exodus of defensive talent that was aging, by the way. Everson out of the mix, he would come back and then leave again. But Trey Waynes, Linval Joseph, et cetera, Xavier Rhodes, all those guys leave. You try to replace them with the Afadi Odenibos of the world, which, whether it's Kwesi, whether it's Spielman, it feels like we've been having the same conversation for nearly a decade on drafting defensive players. When do you know? Was 2020 the right year? You kept them around for 2021. I just think that's the hero. It's kind of they live long enough to become the hated,
the villain. Yeah,
in a lot of ways.
Sometimes it's the case for head coaches for sure.
But it's amazing what Belichick did though, standing tall above all of them.
It was, and
Tom Brady had a small part, I'm sure.
Well, and I think too many people are too fast to dismiss Belichick post Brady as a head coach. Now again. Horrible GM, F- GM, who provided himself no help with talent around him. But the fact that they were at all functional with the talent level on the Patriots as a roster, that's probably the most talent bereft roster in the NFL.
When did he become fully autonomous in personnel? Because in some ways,
I think it was after Pioli left.
Well, when did so that's what I'm getting at, because I'm trying to find like the timeline, the point of demarcation where you can say, because their first Super Bowl win over the Rams, it was not the greatness of Tom Brady. It was the game management of Tom Brady and Belichick's defense shutting down the greatest show on turf.
Yeah.
You can say similar things. Down to the wire, and Brady was clutch, and Vinatieri, and eventually Gostkowski, a couple of guys kicking some walk-off type winners and big kicks in games. But they were close games. And, the game against Philly, again, shutting down that offense, although Terrell Owens was playing, I think, on a fractured leg during that game, still had 9 catches, $122. Donovan McNabb puking on the field, the whole thing.
Yeah.
But so the way that they won Super Bowls early on in his tenure, and then maybe kind of reliving that again in 2018 when they beat the Rams 10-3, and you had Stephon Gilmore, Defensive Player of the Year, I think he may have been MVP of that, unless Brady just got them all. But they won those things differently early on in his career, which would be when he was not in charge. You look at the list, the Vrabels, who he was immediately linked to that job when Belichick was out of the mix. Vrabel, Teddy Bruschi, Wilfork. We were talking about him yesterday with Burke at the team facility. All those names. Seymour. Why am I completely blanking on Richard Seymour? And he eventually, I think he was with the Raiders maybe at the end of his career.
Yeah.
But all those defensive names that they had were so good. Rodney Harrison patrolling the back.
Oh, yeah.
They identified elite defensive talent and won Super Bowls, I think, on the backs of that early before it was Brady and Moss, and it was just a scoring fest.
Belichick assumed the general manager position after Scott Pioli left after the 2008 season. So there you go. If assuming Wikipedia is correct.
So 2008. So would it have been Pioli or? Well, no, it would have been. So Pioli brought in Randy, and then so Gronk.
Yeah, that would end up being a pretty good move.
Yeah,
getting Randy Moss for pennies on the dollar
worked out well for all of them.
That turned out okay.
2007
was a pretty good season for
them. I mean, they still in 2008. Bernard Pollard rolls up on Brady week 1. I think it was Bengals maybe, and he's out. And they went 11-5 with Matt Castle.
Unbelievable.
And if it wasn't
that's a great coaching job, right?
Tony
there.
Sperano and the wild card bit with Ronnie Brown and Ricky Williams down in Miami, they would have housed the playoffs in the division that year too. So the coaching's unbelievable. The personnel maybe left a little bit to be desired.
Left everything to be desired. Can you tell the Belichick story? Because all we've done is talk. We're lauding his career for the most part.
Yeah.
Can you tell the Belichick story and leave out Spygate and Deflategate? Two things of which he was effectively found guilty. The team had to pay pretty significant penalties for both of them, including Belichick getting fined $500,000 personally for Spygate. And then the
Deflategate thing for me is so stupid and ridiculous, and in some ways because they rise to the level of evil empire, right? Everybody wants something on Bill because he's just this obnoxious, misanthropic,
he's an ass
slug in front of a microphone. And so that felt more like a petulant or not, that's the wrong word, punitive headhunt, I think, with Deflategate. The Spygate's a real deal. I mean, you get caught videotaping other people's practices. Well, I would venture to guess, and they say it like anything else, when you get caught doing it, that's usually not the first time you did it. So how long did that go on? To what extent? How valuable was it? It's difficult to move grains of salt in terms of how that factors into what Belichick did overall. But I think the Spygate thing matters. I think the Deflategate thing is among the dumber controversies in NFL history.
Following Spygate, Belichick went 16-0. And by the way, Spygate,
don't piss him off.
It was the harshest imposed penalty on any head coach until Sean Payton. Bountygate.
Well, what year was Spygate?
2007.
It was.
Yeah.
When was Deflategate? Didn't they win a Super Bowl after that too?
That was after that.
Well, no, I know that, but didn't they win a Super Bowl after that as well?
Yeah, that was part of the whole thing.
Because Brady misses the first four. That's Jimmy G's rise to prominence. Before they conned the Niners out of a nice second-round pick or something like that.
Best quarterback on roster, from what I understand.
Yeah, absolutely. And Brady's done. And then I think was that the Atlanta Super Bowl? I forget. But yeah, no, they don't piss Belichick off. He just doesn't have enough left. I mean,
you wonder how much passion does Belichick have at this stage of his career, and does he want to go rebuild a team? I don't think so.
Well, I think if he had more success bringing in talent, if the Patriots were still a playoff team and a contender, I don't think we're having this conversation about Belichick leaving. I think he's still very much in the mix, and maybe there's a small part of him that wants to win without Brady. But the fact is no different really than what the Vikings, different circumstances, ring cred, et cetera, painted Lombardis on the tail of the team playing, et cetera. But similar situation in regard that we have seen, and we'll have a chance maybe to look at the draft classes of Kwesi Adolfo-Mensa's GM tenure, and we can look at them and maybe with some horror as it pertains to some of the selections. But it's magnified because the snowball avalanche effect of ineptitude in the drafts by Rick Spielman. So so the lack of talent ultimately catches up, as it did with Bill Belichick. That's a similar thing that's happening with the Vikings. So I think the fact for him is that whether he's, does he want to go rebuild a different team? Does he want to rebuild the team he's got? Does he want to take responsibility for what he put together and what isn't working? Clearly the answer is no in New England. Maybe it's no across the NFL in general.
Yeah, I wouldn't hire him. I don't think I'd want Belichick. I don't want Belichick in my organization, I don't think. If I were an owner, which I should be, I don't think he's somebody I'd want. Yeah, I mean, it sounds crazy. Who doesn't want to coach with 6 rings and all the playoff success he's had? He hasn't won a playoff game since 2018.
Yeah,
I'm just not interested at this stage.
Well, I'm not. I just don't believe that the cachet is going to bring what it could. Like in the NFL, what is it going to bring? He's not recruiting players. In the end, he's got to work within the constraints of the salary cap. If I'm a general manager, am I bringing in a guy? If I feel good and confident, am I bringing in a guy that potentially will have? He'll have requests, right? He'll have demands. You are turning over the keys, I think, of a franchise for a fairly short period of time to this guy, and it's under the pretense of winning now. Which teams with coaching openings, and maybe a couple without, like they'll just fire a guy for the chance to have Belichick in the building. But it's a win now proposition, right? Maybe that's what they'll do in Philly. If the Bucks upset Philly on Monday.
Belichick in Philly
with Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis.
Oh man, what would he do with that defense? Oh man,
be a hell of a lot better than what.
Wouldn't it?
Don't do it, Bill.
When we come back, the playoff game I'm most looking forward to, Cleveland, Houston, and I know that sounds weird when you've got Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and Dak Prescott and Matthew Stafford and Jalen Hurts. Give me some Joe Flacco versus C.J. Stroud, baby. When we come back, I want to talk, get Nordo, the game you're most looking forward to. Start breaking down some games, and Dave Sinykin coming up momentarily.
And you love Flacco, and I'm going to give people a chance because I know they love winning money. The National Cash Contest brought to you by the Fan and the Big Ten Conference. Go to KFAN.com, enter the keyword PAY, P-A-Y. It's that simple. You might win $1,000 with the keyword
children. The Fan.
How great does this sound? In Buffalo, they're estimating 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts and a foot of snow. Play the game. I want to see the game played. There's rumors that they're going to move the game. Do not move the game. Don't care. This is what we're here for. We love winter snow games. Dave Sinykin.
Who the hell's going to get to the game?
Plenty.
I love winter snow games for sure.
We love it.
Oh, it's the best.
It's the best.
Well, and KC's going to be what?
0 degrees.
Yeah, like 20 below wind chill.
Yeah.
That's as good as it gets. It's so fun.
Now, snow to me is more fun than the bitter cold, but
Agreed.
They're both great viewing experiences.
Well, especially when you've got Tua and the Dolphins, coming to that kind of advice. You just have no idea what they're going to do with that.
Somebody told me, I mentioned it earlier in the show, I believe Tua is 0-4 in games under 32 degrees. This is going to be negative 20 wind chill. Yeah. Tua might snap in half.
But remember, was it last year when they went up to Buffalo with Skylar Thompson, and it was a snowy, awful day?
And everybody assumed they'd lose, and I think they won.
Yeah, they played great. So we can't just assume, it's Florida coming to Kansas City, game's over. No, it's going to be interesting. But, I love when weather takes over at this time of year. It's going to be great.
Yeah. And Greenway's always said in the bitter cold game that they played here, -4 kickoff, whatever, that basically once you got on the field, he didn't notice anymore.
Really?
Which seems insane to me. I don't know how you couldn't, but that's what he claims.
I would think once you're out there, the adrenaline, but once you head to the sideline and you're just sitting there, unless you've got heated everything around you, it's just got to be bitter to deal with that.
Awful, right?
Yes.
And the Met Center had heated nothing. Not Met Center. Met Stadium
right.
heated nothing. Now they've got the heated seats and everything, so I think it's a little easier to stay warm than it used
Probably so.
Yeah.
They figured it out.
I think you're right about that. I want to start with your game, and then if you want to hang around and talk about some of the other playoff games, that'd be great.
I'd love to, man.
Yeah, that'd be terrific.
For sure. This is as fun as it gets. I didn't expect to have anything going on this week to be excited about. This is just house money right now.
Look, the situation your team was in week 8 looked brutal. Your team was sitting at 3-5. Jordan Love's play had been charitably inconsistent, I think would be a nice way to put it.
Sure.
Your team was a seller at the deadline, trading away Rasul Douglas, who's ended up being basically the best player on defense for the Bills, and would be a phenomenal player for your team right now, and your team's weakest position.
Especially with Jair nursing an owie all of a sudden.
Oh,
yes.
No.
Did you hear
don't
that?
say.
Did you hear that?
No, I hadn't heard that, and I am shocked. Shocked.
It was a jog through on Wednesday. They weren't even practicing. It was a jog through, and either he stepped on someone's foot or someone stepped on his foot and he rolled his ankle. He's day to day. So my dreams.
How much would you like to have that money back?
I'm not ready to say that yet. I don't think he's a lost cause.
Isn't he the highest paid corner in the league?
Well, he was when he signed his deal. I don't know if it's been usurped. It's been a rocky year, but I'm not ready to give up on him. He's got too much talent. He's 25, 26. There are concerns to be had, but I'm not ready to cut bait yet.
Evan, you had that. I mean, you were a cross-country guy, and I remember being a kid running in gym class, and somebody just steps on your ankle. I mean, you've never had that happen, Charch? Let's not downplay the severity of this jog-through injury on foot. To Jair Alexander. This could be serious.
It would help if Jair wasn't coming off a season in which he rolled into many Sundays questionable, didn't play. I think it's very easy to question his commitment to being on the field.
I don't dispute it. I think when they traded Rasul, they kind of lost Jair for a second. Like, oh, okay, we're not caring about this year. Then my injury's keeping me. I think that way, because they never put him on IR.
No,
and he missed 5 weeks.
So they thought that he was going to come back and play.
Correct. I feel like they all patched things up after the suspension for the Viking game. They all said the right things. Jair looked okay last week. He wasn't in shutdown mode, but I don't think he's 100%. But my dream was Jair's going to step up, shadow CD, because the Packers slot corner is a weakness.
Yeah.
But I don't know that that's going to happen.
I had audio of him with the coin toss bit trying to explain it is all-time stupid. I mean, it is incredible. It is amazing to listen to.
Grade A moron, at least in that regard.
Correct.
Yeah. You hit on the matchup of this game. CeeDee Lamb against Keyshawn Nixon. He's your slot cornerback. He has been roasted for a lot of this year. Let me give you some Keyshawn Nixon
He also had the biggest defensive play for the Packs this season, the interception of Patrick Mahomes, which turned the game around. So, yes.
And he also plays well against the Vikings.
He is Pro Football Focus. This is Keyshawn Nixon futility stats for him.
He's the all-pro returner, though. Let's just throw that
to be
out
clear,
there.
he's great at special
returner.
teams.
Nice to have out there.
But that's not going to help you in defense.
He'd be a good 4th or 5th corner on your roster.
I don't even know if he is a cornerback. He is a return man playing cornerback.
Okay.
He's the 82nd ranked coverage cornerback by Pro Football Focus. He gives up an 82% catch rate. That's extraordinary. It's extraordinarily high.
Yeah.
That includes, by the way, he rolls into this game having given up 12 straight completions in his coverage. He yields an opposed passer rating of 104. Here's what some other slot receivers have done to the Packers since Thanksgiving. So this is all just second half of the season.
This would be like awesome Fantasy Football Weekly intel, right?
This really is Fantasy Football.
This is what you guys do.
I'm giving you a segment of Fantasy Football Weekly.
I can tell.
Thielen, 94 yards.
Hard to stop Thielen.
Godwin, 10 catches, 155 yards.
That was the low point game of the season, that Tampa Bay game.
Wan'Dale Robinson rolled up 80 on your team. Rashee Rice, 8 catches, 64 yards, primarily from the slot. Amon-Ra St. Brown, great player.
Yes.
9 catches, 95 yards.
Who won that game? Just saying.
I'm talking about this particular matchup.
Gotcha.
Because you have CeeDee Lamb coming in.
See how my defenses come up?
Automatically.
Yes.
You bristle. Keenan Allen, I only got 2 more. Keenan Allen, 10 catches, 116 yards.
And he was banged up.
The average slot receiver game against your team since Thanksgiving, 8 receptions for 100 yards on the nose. And here comes CeeDee Lamb. I think inarguably the hottest receiver in the NFL. What he's done in the last 6 weeks, it's mind-boggling. That's that matchup, I think, goes a long way to your game.
Here's my theory. CD's going to get his whether Jair's out there or not. Okay, he'll get his. We have to stop Brandon Cooks. Because when Brandon Cooks...
Cooks.
When
Cooks.
Well, I think even just like gets like less than 20 yards receiving, they're 0-5.
Oh,
so if you can just not let Cooks beat you, they can't win. No, it's a terrible matchup. Lamb's going to have a monster day, whether Jair's out there or not. I understand that. Green Bay's going to have to outscore Dallas. That's my theory. It's a high-scoring game.
Agreed.
Packers' offense has been much better against man defense than zone, which is what Dallas plays, man. They're much better on turf than grass, and they're going to be loosey-goosey. So my hope is that they can match CD and Dak and their production themselves and just try to outscore them. Because, look, I'm not rolling into watching this game expecting a Packers victory. I'd love to see it. It's such a different kind of state of mind for Packer fans who are so accustomed to being the 1 or 2 seed with all the pressure, windows closing.
Yeah.
Can they finally do? Now it's like, what are you even doing here?
Right. It's
youngest
house money
team in
now.
50 years to make the playoffs. It's like you're rolling into Dallas. They have all the pressure. Just try to keep up with them and see if maybe some magic can happen.
When we come back, I want to ask you about the playoff inexperience on this roster, if that's a factor in this game. I want to ask you if Aaron Jones can take over this game, and that would be a pathway to victory for the Packers if Aaron Jones can continue to play well, and he's looked really good, and all the efforts they made to get him ready to be a factor in December and January have paid off. So we'll talk about that with Dave Sinykin
on the Fan.
Welcome back, Friday Football Feast. Paul Charch and Dave Sinykin in the zones tomorrow at what time?
8 a.m.
8 a.m. like
Yes, sir.
usual.
Yes, sir.
Normal start time.
Packer
Fantasy Football
preview this
Weekly.
weekend?
Big morning tomorrow.
Oh,
We've
yeah.
got,
Do you have Packer preview on Sunday?
Of course.
All right. What time? At 7?
That's at 8.
8.
And half games are scheduled. I wasn't sure if it was going to be Packer review for a Saturday
good point.
playoff game
Good
or
point,
Packer
yeah.
preview. So I'm very happy. Much more fun to preview the game, all the excitement, the anticipation.
Then review a massive lopsided loss to the Cowboys. I agree.
It's my team's still playing football this weekend, so I have no complaints about whatever happens Sunday happens. My young team gets lots of experience. We'll be fine with that.
Yeah, I think Packer fans are pretty ebullient right now.
Ooh, good word.
Thank you.
Yes, if they know what it means, they're definitely that.
Yeah, right.
For sure.
Yeah, if you're already 17, old Milwaukee's in, then probably not.
I'm more of a PBR guy, but
Are you a PBR
I hear
guy?
you. Love PBR.
Yeah.
I grew up on it. It's like milk. It's like,
I suppose.
Yeah, it's just like
it comes right out of
it
the
goes
udder.
down so easily.
Drink it right out of the udder.
You really could.
Don't you think that all those PBRs would make you ebullient?
Yes, 100%. Yes.
The inexperience, I was trying to find playoff experience on your roster.
Yeah.
And then I decided it was too much work. And I would just ask you, who's ever played a playoff game? I guess members of your defense have played for the Packers because you were in the playoffs,
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah,
so you got members of the defense
Yeah,
that
the
played
defense is fairly veteran.
Yeah.
Kenny Clark's been through a lot of battles,
Yeah.
and obviously
Jenkins has
Preston
been
Smith,
there.
Rashawn
Yeah.
Gary, Darnell Savage. Offensively, just a few linemen. Elton Jenkins and the center Josh Myers, John Runyon. You're talking linemen. Obviously, none of the skill positions player.
No.
Aaron Jones has. We'll talk about him in a minute. But and there's not a whole lot of experience. Obviously, the coaching staff's been through it. That's important.
Yeah, that helps a ton.
But it's almost like you feel like they're all so young. It's that old cliche, like they don't even know they're supposed to be nervous. It's just like, hey, we're still playing football. No one's expecting us to win. This team's got pressure. Let's just go have some fun. And Love has not shown me any reason to think that the lights are going to be too big. You talked about midseason, how inconsistent he was. Matt LaFleur's talked about this, and I completely agree. The game that turned the Packers season around was the Steelers game because they were in that October mess where they weren't winning, and they lost the Pittsburgh game. But in that environment where the place is loud and crazy and a couple calls went against Green Bay that might have turned the game, but they didn't let it get them down, and trailing in the final minute and change at their own 12-yard line. Love took them all the way down to the with no timeouts, took them all the way down to the red zone. Obviously they didn't score and the game ended, and the Packers missed a kick, that extra point earlier, that a field goal would have sent the game to overtime.
Okay.
It was one of those deals.
Yeah.
But Love showed in that moment, in that environment at Pittsburgh, that he could take this team in that no timeouts, 80 yards. That showed a lot. And I think that was the turning point where I think he believed, the players believed that, all right, this guy understands how to win a game in a tough spot. So to me, that was the turning point of the season.
All right. And then it's really from that point forward.
Unbelievable.
Played really good football. Really good
as
football.
Well as any quarterback is playing, really. I mean, you can't even argue it.
I know there are listeners right now who are rolling their eyes when you say that he's playing as well as any quarterback in the league, and they're looking at, like Lamar Jackson, MVP, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But really, it's not, I think you're not totally inaccurate with that. It's close. I mean, Love's played, and I think, statistically, he's in that conversation in the second half of the season.
Yeah, he's on top. Quarterback rating, passer yards, touchdowns, and maybe what matters most is the last 2 weeks of the season where it was really a playoff game. Green Bay had to win against Minnesota and Chicago to advance, basically. He played so well. He was the NFC Player of the Week both weeks. In a tough, pressure-packed spot, He not only led his team to a win, but he was the NFC Player of the Week. So it's crazy how far he has come, and it's also crazy to think that he hasn't had a full complement of skill guys around him.
No, they haven't had their starting wide receiver group in any one game this year.
No.
Which is amazing. Now, Christian Watson available for this one?
I'll get back to you around 2 o'clock on Sunday.
All right. Jeez. Is this kid ever going to play?
I know. They said we really thought he was going to play last week by all accounts, and then he's inactive. And then we find out a day or two ago, they estimated he was 75 to 80% home.
That's it.
So I'm not counting on him. I don't. It'd be great to have him as a decoy. Just run down the field and make a safety chase you. I don't know that we're going to see him, though. I guess I'll be happily surprised if he's out there.
The good news is Jayden Reed has been everything you would have hoped for as a rookie second-round pick. That kid is so dynamic, and he's, to me, he's turning into almost a Deebo Samuel, a less physical version of Deebo Samuel for your team, where you can use him all over the field. You can run him. You can bubble screen him. You can turn short passes into long gains. He's elusive. Jayden Reed he has developed nicely, and he's filled some of the void that Christian Watson has given you or not given you.
I was so unhappy when they made the pick, too. How, as fans, you got a guy in your head like, oh, this guy's still here?
Yeah.
And it's exactly what we need. For me, it was Brian Branch. He was sitting there.
Well, he's turned out to be great.
And he is great, and the Packers have a huge need at safety, and that's going to be a big point of emphasis in the draft, I would hope, or free agency. But, yeah, Jayden Reed has been spectacular. Yeah, he's not as physical or big as Deebo, but he's got that Swiss Army knife type to him where he can run the ball. They kind of overused him a little bit for a couple games where it's kind of obvious they're going to go to Reed again with that run play. But, yeah, he's been more than I could have hoped. And tell you what, if you ask me right now who has the most upside, yeah, Reed maybe. Dontavion Wicks is another guy. It's funny, somebody showed his measurables to Stephon Diggs because they were both drafted in the 5th round. They had virtually the exact same physical traits exactly as Stephon Diggs. So now, of course, all of us are like, oh, God, we found Stephon Diggs in the 5th round, which is obviously ridiculous. But this kid is for real and will start for this team. I mean, suddenly, for me, Romeo Doubs has dropped to 4th on the who do you most care about as your receivers. And I like him. He's a nice player. But these two rookies that Goody hit on are going to have big-time futures in Green Bay.
Aaron Jones' last 3 games for your team. 21 carries for 127 yards. 20 carries for 120 yards. 22 carries for 111 yards. These last 3 games, which were all pivotal games that, these are all must-win games. Your team went 3-0 in games they had to go 3-0 in, and they leaned on Aaron Jones in no small part to get those victories.
That was supposed to be the recipe for all season, right? He's the engine for Jordan Love to kind of figure things out. You got a great running back behind you, and obviously after week 1, he goes out with a hamstring when he scores a touchdown, and he isn't Aaron Jones again until week 16. He changes everything for this offense, and there's no surprise that they've gone 3-0 in the 3 games where he's gotten 20 carries and will run for 100 yards. He saves his best for the Cowboys. If you look at his games he has a 4-touchdown game against the Cowboys. He's from El Paso. He gets up for Dallas. He's had 2 monster games against the Dallas Cowboys. I was at the one in Green Bay last year where he was great. So I'm excited to see what he has in store. I don't think A.J. Dillon plays. again this week. He did not practice yesterday.
You know what? Who cares?
Well, he's a nice change of pace. He's a nice goal line guy.
No, he's not.
No, he's
neither of those things.
He was looking like that midseason. He came around the second half of the year and was better. He's not a guy they're going to bring back, I'm sure. He will move on. He's in the last year of his rookie deal. But I'd rather have him in a game like this than not have him. He does not fumble. He can get you a yard or two if you're looking to move the chains. So
a yard. Okay, I'll give you a yard or two.
He's not going to change the outcome.
Is what A.J. Dillon gives you.
I'd rather have him in uniform than not have him on Sunday.
Here are the 3 career games Aaron Jones has had against Dallas. Since you brought it up, I thought I'd pull it out.
I hope this holds true now.
Quick answer, yes. He averages 6 yards a carry. Yeah. His 3 career games, he's netted 125 rushing yards, 107 rushing yards, and 138 rushing yards.
And how many touchdowns altogether?
That would be 6, all of them on the ground. Ooh. By the way, chipped in. He had a 7-catch, 75-yard receiving game in one of those as well.
One big catch. If you look at his career stats, he's like top 5 all-time in yards per carry. He's over 5 yards per carry for his
Packers
career.
all-time? You
no,
mean like NFL, really?
I'm pretty sure, he's over 5 yards per carry for a career. Very underrated. You know, you think of Green Bay, you think of Aaron Rodgers in the passing game. He's another steal. I think he was a 5th-round pick when Green Bay took him. They took Jamal Williams first, and they took Aaron Jones, I think, later in that draft. So he's another guy that might be a cap casualty. I hope beyond hope. He's an all-time favorite of mine that they figure out a way to keep him for one more season. He's 29. You know, that's that age.
Yeah, that's it. That is the age. But and the fact that he broke down a couple of times this season. Yeah. The smart thing, you hate to say it, the smart thing is probably to move on.
He took a big-time cap hit or salary hit.
Yeah.
He lost like $5 million to come back to Green Bay. He was willing to do it. So I don't know that money will drive him, but I mean, I understand you want to lose a guy a year early than a year late. But you didn't use him a lot this year. There's not a whole lot of tread from this season, so I hope they figure out a way to give him one more season.
How much do Packer fans care that they're seeing McCarthy on the other sideline?
A lot. I think a lot. Just the chance to put him down in a big-time game where Jerry Jones has been, can I use the word, ebullient about Mike McCarthy's performance this year. He's gone off this week about how great McCarthy's been. And to see him go 1-out would be great. Look, we harbor no ill will for McCarthy. He's done a really nice job this year with Dak and that offense.
No, I do.
Just that changing of the guard, like if we could take McCarthy out on his home field, I think a lot of fans would love to see it.
Yeah, no doubt. I don't like that guy. I didn't like him I hated him when he was Packer coach, of course.
I got no ill will. I really don't. It was time to go, just like Belichick.
I mean, let him go. Yeah.
Sometimes it's time to make the change.
I don't know why you would have ill will. What do you care? Yeah. And his teams have been a playoff non-factor.
Correct.
So, what do you care? Yeah. I don't blame you. When we come back, and if you want to stay, you're welcome to.
Yeah.
I want to talk through some of the other playoff games. Give me a final prediction for your team.
I'm going to write my blog for Zone Coverage today. As it sits right now, I'm going 30-26 Cowboys. I think we keep it close. I don't think we can pull it out at the end, but I think it's a one-possession game. The 7.5 point spread seems really high to me for a Dallas team that has struggled at home against decent teams. I know they're 16-0 at home. It's tough to beat them. But Seattle and Detroit both gave them all they could handle, and Green Bay's in that same mold. So I think we lose a close one.
Where you might not is this is the best quarterbacking your team has seen in like 2 months. And, that could end up being a big factor here.
You're right, but at least he doesn't run. We just get killed by guys that like to run. So at least we've got a guy that doesn't love to run with the ball.
All right. When we come back, we'll break down a few of the other games.
Beautiful.
You can tell me what your favorite non-Packer game, what's the game
I've
you're
got
most
one for
looking
sure.
forward to when we return to the Friday